Hey, this is Erin Lindstrom, and you're listening to Thank You for You. This is a show about celebrating and acknowledging our humanness as well as our beingness, the easy and the hard, the gifts and the gifts we don't really like but choose to accept anyway. This is a show about and for people in pursuit of more peace, more joy, more money, more justice, and more of the awe that life has to give us. Thank you for being here, and thank you for you. Hey there, it's Erin Lindstrom, and I'm so glad you're here. So on this episode of Thank You for You, I am talking about single parenting and sales strategy and money mindset work. So I'm going to share a bit about my personal journey and also some lessons learned and some things that I think it's important just to consider if you are on a journey like this, or if you're considering a path like this, or if a path like this is considering you. Anyway, I hope it is helpful and informative. And one other quick note is that sales strategy and money mindset to me are both incredibly important. And the way I feel is that they both need to be at the forefront of building our businesses. So you may have taken my free course called Shiny Sales, which goes through all of the basics of sales strategy and money mindset, really more on the money mindset side. And I wanted to let you know that I am opening a sales strategy and money mindset incubator, accelerator. I don't know exactly what it's called but I do know that it's going to be an incredible program starting in January. And if this is something that you are interested in working with and would like my support on, reach out to me, send me a message, let me know, and we can chat about whether or not it is the right fit for you. Without further ado, we'll get to the episode, but thank you so much for being here. Thank you for doing the work that you're doing in the world. Thank you for instilling kindness and honesty, to and through the people around you, whether it's your family, your friends, or the internet. And sincerely, I know this might sound lame, but I really mean it. Thank you for you. Hi, I'm Erin Lindstrom. I am a sales strategist, money mindset coach for online business owners. And this is a topic that has been on my heart for a while. And I've been thinking about I have things to say about this from my experience. And this is more of a heart thing than I have something to say with an outcome. There's no necessarily call to action. This is really about, I just want to share some things. Okay. Because if you are single parenting or moving into a single parent, if you're considering becoming a single parent, if life has brought you to this place and you're building a business, you are likely receiving a lot of messages from people who are not in that same situation. And some of them are not helpful. Some of them are helpful. And I'm not really here to attack anything that you're hearing. I more just want to share a little bit of my experience with you and the lens that I look at advice through. So you can see if that feels good to you and kind of take what you want and leave the rest. But the interesting thing about the difference to me here, it's not so much about exactly what's happening, exactly what your story is. To me, it's more about we all have different capacities when we're growing and building our businesses. Being a mom is one thing that can affect that capacity. And it's something that maybe it doesn't have to, but it tends to. And so walking myself along the journey that I've walked through, you know what I mean? And having clients who have gotten divorced, separated, and become single moms while working together, working with men and women who are single parents and who have been since the, conception of their child is a thing. Other people who have adopted throughout the process of working together. When your family is shifting and changing, you are going through a transformation. And if you're doing that and building your business, you 100% can. And there are some things you may need to think through a little bit differently than the way your coach or mentor or advisor or the program or the course that you're taking or the podcast you're listening to. You might need to shift that a little bit for yourself. And single parenting is just an example of this. No matter what you're going through, you might need to shift things for yourself. And I think honestly, that's a really important thing to note, is that as you are going through and taking in different people's curriculum, no matter what is going on in your life, you always are in charge of filtering that. and deciding like, what am I taking? What am I leaving? What do I want out of this? And like, how much are you committed to, what you're learning and taking it for, face value? And are you open to kind of like taking pieces and creating your own thing? And I think this is really important because, something that I see a lot is clients, people, friends, self, right? We like invest in these, programs, and then we have this like interesting relationship with the program content where we're like, well, I see a couple different things. Number one is like, well, I signed up for this, so I'm doing it exactly how it says. And I will ignore what my body and my intuition is telling me because I'm following the path that was given to me. On the other hand, we have people who hop into these programs who are like, this just isn't for me. I'm not taking anything. How did I even get here? This was wrong, right? It's so like different relationship there. And then there's something in the middle, which I actually think is the healthiest, let's say. But honestly, what's healthiest for you are going to have to decide. So what's healthiest for me, I find, is going into a program, being open to learning all of the things that are being taught. And then like, ultimately, I am the decision maker. The content and the coach are not the person in charge of my business. I am, right? And so the reason this is important is because this is a power dynamic and a relationship dynamic that comes up between you and the thing that you're learning, the person that you're learning from. And as a single mom, in the case of the example that I'm using right now, is like when you are becoming one or transitioning through, and honestly, motherhood, parenthood is a full fucking transition for the rest of your life because you're constantly changing based on like what's happening. And P.S. life is a transition. So motherhood is just a lens that's kind of like, oh, we can see things happening. I wouldn't know that 7 years, you know what I mean? Like 7 years would mean something different to me if I wasn't watching my daughter change over 7 years. So again, there's nothing like, you just have different lenses available to you, right? Depending on your circumstance and your experience and whatever it is you're experiencing in your life right now. So here's like what I want to say. And I'm going to give a couple generally things. And then I want to give you 3 from my personal experience, things that have really helped me. Okay. So, and P.S. before I go into this, let me just share with you too that, so my business, I enrolled in coaching school in 2011. So it'll be 10 years next year that I kind of like started this journey. I started as a single college educated woman who had dropped out of a master's degree program. I moved to London. And then I had like moved back to Boston. I like nannied. I was working at a gym, so I would have a free gym membership. Like I was kind of creating the life that I wanted. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to be a coach. I enrolled in B school. And so I started learning these different business things, right? And so the very beginning of my, journey was very much like, I'm a single person. I can live wherever I want. I needed like $600 to live per month. And like, it was not a big deal. All of my student loans were like deferred. Life was peachy. Okay. As that went on, I got pregnant with my daughter. I got married. I was pregnant with my son. My now ex-husband was deployed. He was in the Navy. And so he was gone for the better part of the first 2 to 3 years of both of my kids' lives. And so that capacity that I had as a human, right, and a business owner was different than what a lot of other people were experiencing in the groups that I were in the, I took different courses, worked with different coaches, mentors, and in the groups, no one could be like me too. And that's not bad, right? Like there's no shame. And I wasn't looking for a group that was everyone who was like me. But I share that just to know that like, if you feel different, it's okay. And like, that doesn't need to stop you, but there are just certain things that I would think through because number one, sales and money mindset as a single parent are of utmost importance. Like I really truly believe that. And if you're thinking in terms of your business and really like, oh, I need to make sales, you have to know that as someone who's going through the transition and this happens, like the transition is your life. Okay. Life is a full transitional period. But like the money mindset stuff that comes up because you were breaking partnership, you have some sort of like broken trust when you made a promise for forever and then you're stepping out of it. Like there are things that are changing there and broken there and being unlearned and relearned and going to have to be reestablished inside of you. Like that is happening. Money changes when you change partnership, right? Like, do you still depend on this person? Are you depending on yourself? Are you depending on the government? Are you depending on your family? Like the situation that you are in has likely changed and shifted. And again, this isn't a bad thing. And it's not a, it can be whatever it is for you. You're going to have your own feelings about it, and there's going to be feelings, and there's going to be truth, and there's going to be 60 different ways to look at it and to tell the story of, triumph and how you got it, or to tell the story of, pain and difficulty. And both of those might be true. In fact, they are, right? And that's life. Like everything is like that. So as you are going through that, just knowing that okay, your sales strategy, if you are holding the pressure of providing for your family, your kids, yourself, your future, right? But if that's living on your business, not everyone else who's in your, course is going to be like that. And it's natural to feel feelings about it. And I'm not saying they're right or wrong or good or bad or anything, but notice them, because this is the money mindset work, because you can have everything that you desire, and you can shift this, and you can support your family, right? With your business. And it's going to require healing. And that's really what's at the bottom of all of this, because as you step into your business and if you want to get out of feast and famine, if you want it to feel, you want inner peace is really what you want. The fucking inner peace is abundance. Okay. That is an important point here. None of us want to be feeling stressed out and is this going to work? And oh my God, if it doesn't, what am I going to have to do? We all want the peace of knowing that it's all going to be okay. And that is something that's actually built inside of you, and you can take action and build it on the outside too. But the truth of that, I would say, if we had to break it up, 51%, 49%, 51% internal, 49% external. And that will shift and change as you go. You cannot just this is my opinion. In my opinion, you cannot just do money mindset work and expect your business to work. Same time, you cannot just do sales stuff and show up and know your positioning and not do any mindset work. Because if you are solely pouring everything into sales strategy, then you are not actually grounded in your humanness and who you are and what you're doing and how you need to change and evolve to become the leader you're trying to become. So the second thing here, and I mentioned this already, is you are going through a transformation. Regardless if you were a single parent, a parent, you're not a parent, you never want to be a parent, you had an abortion, you had an adoption, whatever the fuck it is, we are all transforming as people every single day. Sometimes it feels slow, which means it looks like we are doing the same thing every day and nothing is changing. You know what I mean? So you might be waking up every day and being oh, I'm making no progress. If we zoomed out for a minute, okay, if you're talking about the month of November and I'm 32, right? And so let's say I'm in year 32 of, let's give me 100, right? Jesus, when I zoom out and see the 1 year that was 32, come on, Erin. Could I give myself till 34 to see where I wanted to be? Can I give myself some grace? Can I not put so much pressure on myself for everything to change? Can I take account of all of the micro changes that have been happening? Can I celebrate myself for actually showing up for my kids and running a business? And can you? Right? So just kind of having that perspective of you have an incredible gift, which is you can zoom in and zoom out. And I would actually encourage you to practice doing that regularly. So when you can look at yourself, and even you can do this in journaling if you do daily journaling or weekly journaling or whatever, but actually take the time to zoom in on what you're doing and ask yourself, how am I doing? And then zoom out and ask yourself, how are you doing? And then just remember that you always get to refocus. And you're in charge of that lens, right? Because you're the one who's observing everything. You're not just the character, you're also the audience. And you get to pop in and out, and that might be helpful for you to just remember and to look at, right? So another thing here is once you realize oh wow, I'm going through a big thing, right? Oh, this is a lot. This is a lot, and a lot of humans do a lot, and it's not a lot compared to some people, right? There's this thing called comparative suffering, and we tend not to, we want to compare our suffering as humans. However, you can't really. Your pain is your pain. What you're going through is what you're going through. And that's not to say that what someone else is going to is bad, worse, or feels better or worse, because we don't know, because we will never be able to feel what someone else's feel, but we can empathize, right? So just take that in. And I want to give you full permission, not that you need it from me, but in case you need to hear it, or a part of you needs to hear it, your subconscious needs to hear it, is you have permission to filter advice that you're getting. Just because you like someone and like how they speak, myself included, by the way, like you can receive certain pieces of wisdom from them and then say like, no, thank you to the rest of it. You might love someone's sales strategy and how they do their funnel. And they also like work out all the time and have like a very strict regimen that they preach is best because it's best for them. And you can say, oh my gosh, thank you so much for these sales strategy pieces. And like, no, thank you to the rest. You know what I mean? Or the other way around. You could be like, wow, I really enjoy, like, I picked up healthy habits from you. I'm feeling so much better. I don't really like how you do business, but thank you for that. And when you can actually go through your life and take like the good, right? Take the lessons, take the nuggets of wisdom that come from people, even when it's delivered in a way you don't like, that's abundance. And that also changes the way that like you're showing up in your business. So take that in as well. Now, I want to go into like I wrote down 1, 2, and 3. Here's what I want to share about this. Okay. And so I'm going to share them now. The first one is get clear on the facts and the vision. Here's what I mean for this. And again, this actually applies to everyone. You do not have to be a single parent. That is just something that is part of my story. And so I feel like I want to talk about it. But taking the time to journal or to sit with a friend who can hold space for you, or to have a coach or mentor who can hold space for this conversation. Get clear on the facts of right now. Where are you? What's happening? What's your support system? Like, what are the facts? What is your capacity? Like, let's figure that out on earth. And we can always expand, and you can always do magic, and you can always, you can take action on certain strategic things that will have a big impact. But first we need to know, how much time do you actually have? And like, if you're showing up for your kids in a specific way, like you have commitments, and that's okay. But some teachers are going to teach you that like you're going to hustle for the first year and a half, and after that it'll work. But guess what? If you don't have capacity to hustle for a year and a half because, you have your kids all of the time and you have a commitment to them of how you want to show up and be, that's okay. It doesn't have to be the one way. And you get to kind of look at everything and see what's possible. Okay. But starting out on that, what you need to do is get really clear on the facts of right now, what's actually happening, what's your situation, and then also pop into your vision. What do you want? And if you assumed that everything you wanted, you could have, what would it look like? If life was a buffet and you're like deciding what goes on your plate, what would you like on your plate? And I would get clear about that and know too that like it can change as you go. It doesn't have to be the same thing forever. You do not have to, like, it's not permanent marker. Okay. You have the eraser. You have the full palette. You can paint, you can color, you can erase, you can spray water on it and make it do something else. Like, the point is, you can't get to what your vision looks like if you don't let yourself make any art. Does that make sense? So like, you have to allow yourself the gift of making a mess to get to your creation. And if we're constantly, focused on what we're doing over here in this space and how we can actually show up and if we're focused on what's not available, then we can't look at what is available. And like, you are a Venn diagram. So the where you are and I have marker from this morning. The where you are and where you're going, we want them to overlap. And we want you to spend your life kind of in that middle piece of the present, because you can actually receive things. And each day, like, you can expand, you can receive more, but it is helpful when you know what you want, and not every single detail, but like big picture. Start asking yourself, what do I want? Okay. The next thing here, and this goes right into that, is short-term and long-term. We need to know your needs and desires for this month and for the next 2 years. And those can be different things. And that is not something that's typically taught. Usually you go into a program and it's like, what do you want? Great. We're going for that. Here's your spreadsheet. Write down everything you'd ever like in your life, and we're going to go for that. Guess what? No. It is good to have that, but if you are juggling things on earth, sometimes that is painful, and it is hard because like, you could do that if things were a different way, but given your life choices and your circumstances and where you are, you're going to make different choices. And it's not necessarily like the fullest, fastest way to get to where you're going, but it is in a way that honors your choices and the people who depend on you and the commitments that you've made. And I just want you to know, like, it's okay if that brings you grief to do the list and to see all of the things, like, because you are in transition and actually creating something, it is natural to feel sad. And I would let yourself feel that. If you feel like I don't want to do that because I can't touch any of it, great. Be with that. Notice that you want to avoid the future, because that is another stage of grief, is actually allowing yourself to receive what you desire. And so all of this is important, right? And like, as you're going through it, it's even more important than doing the things that a program may ask you to do, is noticing, how does it make you feel? Because that's where the healing really is. And when you can start to see like, oh, I need to do this, but I'm feeling like that. What is that? What's that about? How can I be gentle with myself through this? How can I show up for myself as I navigate this new terrain? You know what I mean? It's really like going into all of that stuff. So making sure you are clear on what is the short term, what is the long term. This month, and I will share with you, like in my business, I've had very large sales goals, right? And whatever, very large is very small to some people. So it almost doesn't even matter. I just want to qualify it for you in that, like, I have had seasons of my life in business where my goal was to pay my rent and be able to buy groceries. Honestly. And that was fucking hard sometimes, which feels, it doesn't actually feel, but I can remember that feeling embarrassing and shamey, and not something I wanted to share in a group. Or even with my coach, you know what I mean? Or even with my best friends or business besties. But like, that was my reality. And so actually moving from that being my reality to, oh, now my goals, my goal is like, it feels like a soft goal, because I almost am so detached that I don't care, because I know at least 20K is going to come into my business, like no matter what I do and how I show up this month. And I can build on that if I want to. But like, that's a very different life than being at the grocery store and putting things back because you can't afford like this combination of snacks that you chose for your kids this week. And I just want to share that so you know, if you are in that situation and if you are feeling ashamed, like, I see you, I feel you, and the growth that you desire, the transformation is possible and it's in progress. The way to actually make your insides match your outsides starts with your insides. The feeling of like trust, and it always works out. And like, I do have enough. That is a feeling. The sales, the numbers coming in will never give you that. To a certain point. You know what I mean? Because we're all humans, and I can't tell you how you're always going to feel and what's going to make you feel certain ways. But to a certain extent, I can say that really confidently, that you can be making $30,000 a month and still be scared that it's not enough. People do. That is a very real thing, right? You can have $1 million business and be scared that it's going to be gone tomorrow, because will people continue to show up? Like, all of these fears, they continue. So the growth and the trust and the learning to really trust yourself, that is inner work. Because once you realize like, oh, I can make $20,000 in a month. Okay, cool. Oh, wow. I've done it for 6 months in a row. Wow. Cool. Okay. Now you have a different knowing of yourself, a different trust, because you've shown up consistently with yourself and co-created a reality that you're now like, okay, well, if this was taken away, what could I do? Well, I have all of the sales and marketing experience. I could literally run any fucking business. Like, give me a plumbing business and I could get you more sales. I know I could, because it's human connection and there's some strategy, but like, by that time, you know enough to like, okay, I can make money. Right? And once you have that, there is a level of trust that's there. However, if you're not building the trust innerly, if you're only looking at the numbers and only showing up, and it's almost like this thing that's outside of you, that's fine. You might hit your goals, but the feelings and the embodiment of who you are becoming isn't as available, which is why I recommend like really paying attention to this stuff and seeing like, how are you talking to yourself? What fears are coming up? What is the language your like mind is using with you when you are scared? Is your brain, mind, whatever, telling you like, oh, you suck? Here's some other things. Single moms. Smart. This is like a wound that comes up with this, that I have talked to many people, divorce and single momming, or a combination, or you know what I mean? Like whether or not you're actually married, but like separation, having it look like you thought something was going to be a certain way, and then you learned along the track that it wasn't, and everything changed. A lot of people internalize that, myself included. I've done some healing around this, is like, I'm not smart, because smart people don't do that. Smart people know who they can trust. Smart people don't do stupid things. That's false, by the way. But you want to ask yourself, what have you made up that is true about you because of this? What do you think people judge about you? What do you think people are saying about you? Now, it doesn't actually matter what they're saying or thinking or feeling, but it's you who is projecting those thoughts that are coming from you. And so the healing around those also come from you. And that's just like an important thing too. So the last thing here that I want to share is about flexibility and like being different is okay. So I have a free group on Facebook that's called the Shiny Sales Community. And I asked in there a while back, like, do you identify as the black sheep of your family? And to me, I actually call it the shiny sheep of your family because we tend to be the like idealists, like I can do it people, but it makes us different than everybody else. And so do you feel like that at all? Do you feel like when you walk into groups or with coaches that like you're just not quite understood because you are different? And I want you to know that like, that's cool and fine and normal. Most of us feel different. Most of us feel like we don't fully belong in the spaces that we go into. And the way that you kind of like heal that is by learning how to be someone who creates the feeling of belonging for others, which really is about human connection. It's about being able to listen. It's about being able to see them and kind of like non-judgmentally being with people. And as you give that gift to other people, you give it to yourself. And so that's the thing. So I always think it's interesting too, inside of groups where, and sometimes groups need to be very specifically around like being a certain place in business or being whatever. But sometimes you have a group where you really can be in any place and you will see people who are far ahead being triggered by people who are further behind, who are showing up and like need mindset support. And they're like, oh, I needed to be in a higher level space. Well, guess what? No, you don't. Maybe you do for specific things, but if you're doing mindset work and someone is triggering you like that, you're in the perfect place. And what I would actually recommend, and I've done this myself, is I have had that same feeling of like, oh my God, like, why are you here? What I do is reach out to that person and I get on a call with them and I get to know them and they have become my friends, my clients, my like colleagues in a way that like you can find someone's treasure when you actually give them space. And so just notice that too. Like, where are you kind of like, no, no, no? Because if you've gone through a separation of some sort, right? If you've had your trust broken, if you've had some sort of happily ever after is this way, and all of a sudden you're going all the way the other way, right? Like you have guards up, you have blocks up. And guess what? Those are receiving blocks too. So you might be like, I really need help with sales stuff. And she's talking about how she's struggling with thinking she's an entrepreneur. That doesn't apply to me. Yes, it does, because guess what? It's all receiving. It's all about seeing yourself. It's about identity. It's being able to show up and connect. And it's about seeing and being with people and seeing the value in them, honestly, without you personally needing to like go up a notch because of it. And knowing too that like sometimes it's about giving. It's about you showing up and being empowered, and like that's actually serving the other person. And you don't know where she's going to be or how quickly she's going to move. You're making up that person is going to move slowly. And quite honestly, she could fucking surpass your income in the next 3 months. Like, and you might be looking at her in a couple of months. We just never know what's going to happen. We don't know who people are or where they're going. So in my opinion, instead of like pushing them down or away, I would open up and like sit down and be like, hi, who are you? What's your story? How can I be of service? And that might just be one human conversation could change things too. And I see that a lot. Once people are seen, that their energy shifts. So if there's something you don't like that they're doing, I come back to this a lot where it's you have to connect before you correct. So if there's something you don't like, connect with the person and then you'll figure out the rest. There might be a boundary that might need to be there. You might not be in the right container. You might just need to like stand up. You might need to be the person who's like, yo, Sarah, I just want you to know that like, I see you and you can do this. And there's clearly some mindset stuff here, but here's what worked for me. Like, how can you show up and actually change that instead of just telling them why they're wrong or bad and why you need to leave? Because that's a natural thing to like, just want to leave, right? Like, I'm out. I learned about this. Like, I know when things are bad. One time I stayed for too long. So now I'm out every single time. And if you're doing that to your dream too, that's another thing. So not saying there's any right or wrongs here. Sometimes you do need to leave. Sometimes there is a problem, but it's really about discernment, and that requires self-awareness. And coming back to like the title of this, which is the sales strategy for single moms. I just want you to know you have a beautiful opportunity here to really like double down on both the sales strategy and the money mindset work. They're both of equal importance to you. If you have goals, you don't just want to make money right now. You want to create a different life for yourself and your kids. That requires transformation from you. That requires support and community, and not just information, but belief shifting. And so just check in with yourself as you're stepping into the next, support, whatever, whether it's a course, a coach, a following of someone's feed, like just check in with what are you getting from these people? How does it feel? Does it work with what you have? And remember that like you get to shift things and take what you want and leave the rest, and know that like you can do this. There are people who are doing it. There are examples, like get in their fields of energy and then check in with yourself. What healing is required and what mindset shifts are required. Like where are you not receiving and where do you need to stop receiving because you're simply done with things that are that way. And remember that like you get to change and pivot as you go. So if you have any questions, if you want support, the like Shiny Sales Incubator, which I believe is called Committed, but don't mark my words, is opening up for January. So if this is something you're looking for, the help with both sales strategy and money mindset, shoot me a message. I'm happy to talk to you about it. And I will talk to you guys soon. Hey, it's Erin, and I want you to know that you matter. Everything you're doing and everything you've done, it all matters. It all counts. Because you are important to the people around you, your family and friends, your audience, your clients, and quite honestly to the world. Whether you're changing lives on the front line or changing lives while you're changing diapers, your presence matters. Every life you touch counts. And from just one interaction, there can be infinite, meaningful effects. And for that reason, I want to thank you for showing up and doing the work to be with yourself and share your light and your gifts and your love with those around you. If you want support with any of this human being stuff, you're always welcome to join me inside of my coaching membership, Human Being Club, at humanbeingclub.com, or follow along with me on Instagram for more behind the scenes silly stuff at Erin Lindstrom. Once again, thank you for being here, and thank you for you.